Hey everyone, Esoteric Scholar here, and today I want to talk a little bit about gamification of ritual. And this comes as a topic from a patron over on Patreon where he wanted to know some tips and tricks on how to be motivated to start doing your daily practice and your daily workings and your tips and tricks for that. Because he felt that ever since he was swayed away from his ritual years ago, he's starting to get back into it, and now he is not worried, but now he is lacking motivation. He has this nihilistic why mentality. And you can go and you can think that if you have a nihilistic view to it where everything is just going to be drab, boring, not purposeful, ending life-altering death, and the whole destruction of the mentality thought form, you can see where it's a spiraling staircase down in the abyss to nothingness. And so the question is, how do you overcome that? And some of you are out there will be like, well, find your why. Find out what makes you tick. And no one ever expresses on how to do that. So let's take a few minutes and discuss that. The first thing that I have found on the ritual daily practice is preparation. Don't wait till minutes before the ritual to prepare, because you're going to find reasons why you are not ready, and your brain is going to be like, well, I'm missing my favorite incense stick, so I can't do my ritual. Which, and you think it's silly, but your brain will actually tell you these things. So sit there and think through why you stop doing these rituals. So that's another step, is to think back to, when I don't do it, what is my excuse? And keep a journal of these excuses. And start looking back to see why you have your excuses. Is it because you're not prepared? Is it because you have a mental roadblock, that you have a little bit of fear about the ritual you are trying to practice or prepare for or actually perform? Is there some kind of underlying subconscious issue there that is a roadblock that you need to reduce before you can move forward? The discipline of ritual, it's something that is built. It's not something that is given. So what I mean by that is that you don't have the given right to just have discipline to do ritual. Meaning that you're one day, I'm an occultist and I'm going to do ritual every day and it's going to be easy because I'm an occultist now and I read all the books. It doesn't work that way. It actually gets a lot harder. And every day is harder. Every day it gets more, because there becomes a point in that arc of performing into skill. So like you have days performed to skill level, there should be an arc that rises. It gets more drab because it gets more repetitive. So you're doing the same thing over and over and over. It's the horrible grinding of life after a certain point. So you have to come up with ideas and a way to make it fun again and make it interesting, or you're going to lose focus with it. You're going to lose your thought process and you're going to lose your drive. And your brain is going to come back and say, hey, what can I do to not have to do this? Because that TV show is a lot more fun than standing in the middle of your room saying some ancient barbarous names that I don't even know what they mean. I'm just going to sit down and watch the fucking hockey game. And that's how your brain's going to work. So gamify it. And how you can gamify it is by finding those little things that you enjoy. It's a very personalized experience. So let's say that you have in mind, and you want to be able to, memorize the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. You're very new to this, okay? Because anyone who has been doing this for 3 months probably has that memorized and can do it in their sleep. But say you're new and you want to memorize that and perform it flawlessly. Well, after the first 3 or 4 days, you're probably going to be like, well, whatever, I know it. Let's just keep doing it. But you need to drive through and take it slow. How do you make that fun? Work on the visualizations. So when you're starting to do the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, this is just an example. You can perform this however you see. Start working with the visualizations more instead of the movements. So at first, you're going to be tracking your hands in the air, just watching how that star gets formed, that pentagram, and then you're going to be watching how the sign of the emperor is made through the center of the star, and those are all going to be your focuses. But after a couple days of practicing, the motions start to become pretty much subconscious. Now you need to really dig in and start modifying the visuals. Each visual needs to be interesting and complete. So when you start calling down the archangels during the ritual and you're like, Michael, or some people pronounce it Michael. So when you start pronouncing those or invoking those, start thinking about them stepping out of their element. Okay, so like Michael, he's fire. So imagine a big wall of fire, and here's this gigantic angel stepping forward, right, while you're pronouncing this name. Or he's coming down and descending from the heavens, or however you want to vision it. Experiment with these and take your notes with what resonates and what makes you feel good. Because those things that make you feel good during the ritual are the things you will build upon to keep your discipline and to keep your moving forward. Okay? Now, for those of you who are sitting in the couch right now saying, yeah, that sounds good and dandy, when I'm actually starting the ritual and I have the motivation to get off my couch, but what about me? What about me, the guy that's having trouble sitting on the couch? Well, that's going to be tougher, because you're going to have to work through your mental faculties to deduce, why am I not getting off the couch? And you're going to have an honest conversation with yourself. And you're going to have to say, what is it that makes me not want to get up? Why would I rather sit at this couch and stare at the TV versus go in the other room, put the robe on, and start making some motions or doing some prayers? Because, if you start doing these things regularly, your daily practice can be 15 to 20 minutes, maybe half hour at most, depending on what path you're practicing. And that's just your daily stuff, And then when you start doing other rituals, it takes longer, and those will have their own set of complications and mental faculties you have to overcome. But the initial start is all about analyzing your mindset and asking your questions, why? So why can't I get up and go in there? And then you'll find the answer to that. You have to keep asking. You have to be brutal honest with yourself. You'll be like, I don't see the point in it. Let's say that is your example. I don't see the point in it. Then you have to ask yourself, why? Why don't you see the point in it? Well, because a lot of the movements I'm making, it just doesn't feel like I have a connection with the spiritual realm. I feel like I'm just a joker dancing around in the room. Okay, now you got to ask yourself two whys. Why do you not feel you have a spiritual connection to it? And why do you feel like a joker in the room? Well, it doesn't, the first why, it doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel like when I do this, there's anything there. It feels like I'm in a void of essence. Okay, so put that one to the side now. Now let's go to the next one. Why do you feel like you're a joker? Well, when I'm doing this, I'm in my robes, I'm in my garments. I feel like if people saw me, they would laugh at me, because we're living in a modern society where religion and the spiritual is really the answer, and it's all held in churches, and that's still a little weird too because the pope or the priest dresses up and all that. Okay, why do you feel like that's only limited to there? Well, when I grew up as a Catholic, and that's kind of what they said. Bam, right there. You see that? There, you got the root to it. You got the root of the one where you have a predisposition to something that's causing a lot of these other problems. And then you have to go through and re-engineer it. Okay? So how you re-engineer that thought process is it's time consuming, and you have to have the will to say, hey, I want to change. And you have to leave it open enough to where it's not all or nothing. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you want to change this mentality. You're not feeling like there's a spiritual connection, and you're not feeling like it's for you because you were raised as a Catholic and you have these predispositions that this isn't for you because you're not a priest and you're going to go to hell for all this stuff. So you have a lot of these predispositions. Well, let's think this through and work it out. So you'll have to start meditating, and you have to start thinking about why. You have to do these whys again. Be like, why does it matter that I was raised Catholic? Why does that affect in this? And I got a little diverged. Sorry, got off topic. That's next. You have to leave yourself open enough to where your end goal is not one set thing. Your end goal is not, I want to practice this ritual mindset with this dagger and this clothing in this room in this city. Like, you can't do that. Leave yourself open. Because when you start limiting yourself down there, your brain's going to start saying, well, you don't have that dagger. You don't have that clothing. You don't have that right ritual spot. And it's going to start shutting you down and giving you more no's instead of yeses or reasons why to practice. So you have to leave it open and be like, I want to start practicing. And then you have to say, what? What do I want to practice? Anything. Okay, let's start with Western ceremonial magic. Okay, where do I start? I don't know. Then you have to tell yourself, that's cool. That's cool, man. It's okay not to know. You're starting out. Don't get overwhelmed. So what you do is then you find, like, okay, well, looks like a lot of people are starting with the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. Let's start with that. Okay, cool. There you go. You pick something. But what if I do it wrong? Don't worry. Don't worry. It's okay. See, these are the things. You have to forgive yourself and allow yourself to explore these things. And if it's not right, it's okay. It's okay. Now, later on in your studies, once you develop this discipline of it's okay, just do it and start learning from it. And if you make a mistake, come back through and resolve it. When you start getting that pattern down, you will start developing the foundation of discipline to when you start doing these more advanced rituals like the Abramelin or working with egoic demons. They require a lot more strict adherence to a certain set of rules. And if you bog yourself down with those starting out, then you feel like you're not worthy or you can't do it or there's no spiritual connection there. But when you say, hey, there's something to this, I'm going to take my steps. I'm going to take my baby steps and I'm going to go on and do this. And you find the reason why through practice and meditation, and you will go a lot further. Alright, so let's dive in a little bit deeper on the gamification aspect. How can you actually make games out of rituals, and is it proper? Yes, it's proper, because I'm not talking about mocking or not making a solemn practice. And two, you make games out of it by you finding enjoyment in a method you do. So for instance, with me, I enjoy switching things up to see what happens. So my thing is trial and error, and kind of not winging it, but doing some slight modifications that I find interesting, adding the eccentricness to it. That's what I do to switch up rituals. So I might hold my hand in a slightly different way. I might change the tip and pitch of my voice. I might try to say things a little bit more funny like, or, just change my voice up as I say the ritual. And that allows me to have a little bit more enjoyment and switch it up each time. Some people, what they can do to gamify it is if you do X number of meditations, you get a brownie or a cookie, something that you really like. So you have that reward system to it. And the problem with the reward system is if you don't have anybody to hold you accountable, you start to slip after a period of time, I found out. So at first you're like, did it strong. Next, did it strong. 4 days into it, you're going strong on it, but then you just had a hard day's work. You just got home from being chewed out all day. You sit down on the couch and you're like, man, I need to meditate. And then you're like, I can't get my cookie until I meditate. And then you're sitting there thinking, it's been a hard day. I deserve that cookie. You don't. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You don't deserve that cookie unless you do what you committed yourself to do. And that's what people fall prey to, because once you give yourself that little bit of leeway, you start to slide down that hill, and from there it's very hard to get back. But now if you had somebody to help you out, you can have them be the guardians of the cookies, where you tell them that unless I properly perform this, I don't get a cookie. And then they have to hold you to it. Unless you allow them to sit there and watch you, which is a whole different mental barrier on its own, you have to have some trust in between the two of you, and you could lie to them. But if you lie to somebody who's got your best interest in mind, you have a little bit deeper issues to reconcile than discipline of ritual. Just saying. So those are a couple ways. Let's think here. What is another way we can do this? You can see, I'm focused on a lot about experimenting because that's kind of how I gamify things, is what happens if I do this. You can sit there and put money back. This is kind of interesting. It's kind of like a savings plan. So for every ritual you do, you put $1 in the weekend fund jar. Something to that effect. Where I get to go spend this money on me and only me for whatever I want it for, guilt-free. And me just talking about this, I'm kind of excited about that. I'm like, I might do that. I actually have a savings up for a trip out to Vegas this year. I'm not doing that to it, but I might now that I've said that, because that actually kind of sounds fun. I like money, so I might do that. And just you give money to yourself as a guilt-free way of spending it while you practice. And you can get into some deep thoughts on how that can be recursive as well, where you can even tie that into money magic. But that's a way of doing it. Another way of doing it is keeping a calendar with friends. Once again, you have to have some trust here. And once again, if you're lying about this, you have some deeper issues. But take a calendar out and keep a journal and see who can practice their daily rituals the longest, and write down what daily rituals you do on each calendar piece. So if you have a friend or a group of people who are having similar issues, use each other to motivate each other. Call them up and be like, hey, I just got done doing this, this, and this. Did you do your rituals today? And they're going to be like, yes, no, whatever. And you have this little challenge. Now you can put a wager on it. You can put $5, $10, a beer, or out to dinner, whatever you want to do. Put a little wager on it to make it a little bit more fun too, to keep you up. Now this isn't a long-term thing, and I want to express that because because there is lot of a lot of this. When you get into it and you start doing it, you'll develop the habit and the discipline with the practice. So these are things to get you involved with it and get you to it. And you'll get to a point where you'll look back at these and you'll be like, man, that really helped. I just don't need it anymore. I'm more productive just getting into the zone and doing it. And that is, some of the ideas for how to gamify ritual and get into the practice of doing this. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. You're hearing the extended cut right now for your patrons only. So I appreciate you being a patron, and I hope you guys look forward to more of these. Share and let people know about this so, build the community up. Thank you.